Sup, y'all? Yikes, let's do it right here. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. I've done a video here before, actually, and just about this exact same location. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. This is a video under our main side. One of the four sides to us as In The Image Clothing Company. This video's title is, and hear me out with this, there's a lot to this anatomically with the body, okay? Using the fingers in twos or fours. We're gonna talk about this because why are we a clothing company? What does it mean to be In The Image Clothing Company? Why is our slogan here under our main side, allowing the body to work? Clothing's the only thing physically placed on our bodies. The literal word of clothing: glasses, hats, jewelry, pants, shoes, socks, undergarments, tops, anything at all. You've got a bag on your shoulder, clothing your shoulder. The way that God clothes the fields with grass, we are a clothing company under In The Image Clothing Company, our 5-word company name, because we're designed in the image of God. In the image of Jesus Christ. Here's your clothing company. Anything placed onto the human body just has to work for the body the only way that bones connect. Bones are only the shape and length that they are in the human being, and they connect directly to each other through ligaments. And that's a very specific meshing that happens at the bones. Okay? There's a thin layer of cushioning between the bones called cartilage so they don't wear each other out. And that's just the only thing the body can do, is how the bones are shaped. Okay, muscles pull only. Opposing muscles stabilize us in a neutral, with muscles pulling to close a hinge joint, and opposing muscles pulling to extend the same hinge. So just meaning, yeah, everything in the body, it only does what it does. And the literal word of clothing our bodies with anything at all can bring imbalances. So with our bodies just having things like joints of material of clothing needing to mesh with joints of body parts, well, clothing has to fit. It has to stay centered, and it has to be made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials. At least these three things at baseline, because there's nothing placed onto the body unless there is. God designed the body to work. It only does what it does. It grows by itself. God does it for us. And then that's all it can do. Okay, it's just what it can do. Damn, here comes a car, man. God. Exact same thing happened yesterday. I was over here filming a video, and a little truck pulled in here. It's just crazy. Inside the baseball area. Weird. Okay, timing. Ridiculous. You know, it is what it is. Not in a bad way necessarily. It's crazy though. So using the fingers in twos or fours. Okay, let's talk about this because we get our bodies into chronic patterning. Okay, trying to work around something physically placed on us if our clothing, the literal wording, is imbalanced. And in modern day, we've got universal clothing imbalances shipped across the entire earth in ways we couldn't have had happen in the past. Okay, yikes. Shoelaces, drawstrings are just ropes. You can tie one side over the other and twist your entire body and damage the entire body. But we've got things like collar seams. In the Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification. One of the free modifications we give in clothing to allow the body to work here under In The Image Clothing Company, specifically under our main side. So rotated seams in clothing, with robots stitching our clothing and rotating the seam where it comes down, like the side seams of tops, and then gets stitched down to the shirt tail, or pant cuffs, or anything like this, and sleeves and tops, anywhere you could have a rotation in seams. These things twist the body. The body's got its own rotations, from internal rotation or external rotation. And if our clothing, being just the literal word of anything clothing us, physically placed on our bodies, is rotating, then our bodies can't just mesh with Earth's vertical gravity pull. There's a vertical pull to gravity. There's a horizontal surface to the planet Earth. It's a 90-degree perpendicular right angle. There truly is only one way the human body could ever possibly function. The vertical pull to gravity meshes with the center line of our bodies. We've got even opposing musculature from the center line of our bodies connecting into bone. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, the jaw, these things are in the center of our bodies, the jaw stabilizing the entire body with musculature to the crown of the head, to the upper ribs, and out to the edges of our shoulders, going through the collars of our tops that have to stay centered and snug. The importance of snug collars and keeping collars centered, right? In the Image Clothing Company. So here we go, right? The 9th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here. This video's title, Using the Fingers in Twos or Fours. Let's talk about it, but anything at all, right? Shoelaces, drawstrings, oversized clothing, pockets, zippers, buttons, all these things can cause chronic patterning to get built up in our bodies day after day after day, year after year after year, almost an entire lifetime, let's say, of just having something physically placed on us, gravity having the same effect on our clothing that it has on our bodies, damage to the body. Scar tissue builds up and bone spurs build up in the body. When the body can't just work the only way it ever possibly could, there's a neutral position to the entire body. And we're going to discuss this a lot with the hand and the wrist traveling through the entire arm in this video here on the 9th of July, 2026, bro. Under In the Image Clothing Company's main site, okay? Using the fingers in twos or fours. Well, we've got 4 fingers. There's no possible opinion to it. There's only one way the human body could ever work. It's measurable mathematical degrees of hinges, levers, and rotations, just determined by the shape and length of our own individual bones that grow by themselves. Universal laws, physics, gravity, these things outside of all of us that we all have to abide by, that apply to all of us the exact same on this planet Earth that God made. He placed the human being onto it that he also made, okay? The body is just literally what we eat. We eat food, plants that grow from the earth, or animals that ate plants that grow from the earth. The earth becomes the human being. There is no possible workout routine, stretching routine, mobility exercise, anything ever to try to train your body to do anything besides the shape and length of your bones connecting directly. It only could ever possibly do what it does and nothing else, okay? So we reside in this neutral position in the entire body. Always, okay? Every part of the body, there's a neutral. Everything. We could talk about the whole thing, right? The wrist comes up or down. The feet go up or down. The pelvis comes up or down, right? And there's terminology for these things, but just for some examples, there truly is just a neutral position to the entire human being. So we've got a video here under In the Image Clothing Company's main site titled Holding Things Naturally, okay? And we talk about it because we have different length 4 fingers that wrap evenly around a different length opposable thumb that plays an entirely different function than the fingers do, okay? The open palm and internal rotation, a video's title here under In the Image Clothing Company's main site, as these different length 4 fingers within the universal human design. I understand people can have their own differences in their body. Very, very small percentile of human beings have differences if and where they do. We address those things if and where needed. But broad spread across the planet Earth through all the races and religions and whatever you want to say, colors and stuff. You know, the rainbow people have the same kind of bodies as the black people. The same kind of bodies as the Mexicans. And those white boys too, like me, right? Anyway, there's only one way the bones are shaped in the body. So these different length 4 fingers wrap around the different length opposable thumb because there's an open palm, and this is where internal rotation comes from. Meaning if we can't get the hand to open and round, we're gonna lack this rotation of the arms rotating inward. Like if we follow the thumbs, the arms rotating in at the forearms from the fingertips up to the elbow, or in the entire arm. When we straighten the elbow between the hand and shoulder, the entire arm does the exact same thing. if the body's just not altered and working all together because it's all there. Okay, let's talk about this. So that there's two fingers on either side of the hand, and I've discussed this like this in ways before in videos under In the Image Clothing Company. Before today's date, the 9th of July, 2026. As the founder and leader for life, my name is Evan Strong. But here we go. Let's get into this thoroughly in this video. The idea of 2s versus 4s with the amount of fingers we use at a time, and why it's actually very important. In the forearm, from the wrist up to the elbow, we have 2 bones, a radius and an ulna. And these bones just rotate over each other. It's like taking both of your forearms, putting them next to each other, and rotating each arm over the other arm. So you have 2 arms rotating. Within each arm, you have 2 bones rotating, doing basically the same thing that you can see when you rotate one arm over the other, but it's happening within each arm, right? There's 2 bones twisting over each other. That's how this rotation happens. From internal rotation, bringing the thumb in toward the body, or external rotation, bringing the thumb out away from the body. And there's always a neutral. Internal rotation rises the shoulders. External rotation drops the shoulders. There's just only one way it happens. You've got literal bone just having to clear other bone, or they literally hit into each other. And that can't happen. It just stops the motion. The body can only possibly do what it does. But this is what I'm saying is these are the things people miss when they don't understand how their body should work, the only way it does physically, mathematically work. Meaning people go to the gym or they do it wherever they do it. They're doing workouts, exercises in positions their bodies just don't work in. Or really just outside of their only neutral position. And we've got different length 4 fingers, okay? And the thumb's not a finger, really. It's got an entirely different thing it does. The fingers come straight out the arm. I understand the airplane noise. We follow these bones in the forearm down. Let me wait for the airplane. Let me wait. How patient are you, Life-changing information, eternal truth. I don't get to decide. I didn't design my own body. I definitely didn't design yours. There is a universal human design, though. There's only one way it could ever possibly work. We follow these 2 bones down the forearm, the radius and the ulna, and they just go straight out the ends of the fingertips. That's the neutral to the wrist. Like the outside of the forearm goes down and out the outside of that pinky finger. Then the wrist can go down, or the wrist can come up, but there's always a neutral position because in the fingers you've got bone to bone to bone to bone into the hand to bone into the forearm, and then this all travels up the bone of the upper arm when we straighten the whole arm. There's always just this inline position. It's just the only way the bones connect. It can never possibly work without wearing itself out, like the hand or the wrist or the arm, in a position that's outside of this neutral position, just on an angle. This'll never happen without damage and pain, and you're going to physically hurt your body. On either side of the neutral, the body only ever can possibly really work in its neutral positions. We've got accommodation that can happen outside of the neutral. That's why there's motion on either side. But you always reside in the neutral. Gravity pulls the pendulum of the hand down from the other end of the shoulder in that neutral. There's only one way the human body could ever work. It's mathematics. But we don't understand this if we don't understand this. But I'm giving some context so that we can understand it, but also to lead into the fingers, because I could just sit here and tell you about the fingers, but if I don't give you an explanation to where you can know that I don't just have some kind of opinion on how you should intentionally use a specific amount of your fingers for things, why would you care? But it's mathematical truth. It's God. The body grew by itself. The fingers are different lengths. And so we have to use the fingers in a way they're going to be able to mechanically have the ability to work. You know, so the outside of the arm here, the ulna, the outer two of the bones in the forearm, the outside arm bone, the ulna, meshes with the outside two fingers. Okay, the pinky finger and the ring finger correlate directly with the ulna in the forearm, and then the index finger and the middle finger correlate directly with the radius in the forearm, because we've just got two sides to the arm. One bone on the outside of the forearm comes and is two bones on the outside of the hand. One bone on the inside of the forearm comes and is two bones on the inside of the hand. We split the two bones in the forearm right in half, come down the hand, and we split the four fingers right in half. And there's two on either side. So, you know, when we talk about holding things naturally, you'll hold it with your middle two fingers a lot of the time. If it's something that doesn't allow this natural rounding to the fingers, holding it with just two fingers allows the rounding still, because when I say two fingers in this case, I mean the middle two fingers, because they're the longest in the universal human design. So that allows the hand to still stay open and round. So this is what I'm saying, using two fingers or four fingers, right? Using the fingers in twos or fours. This video's title, under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, on the 9th of July 2026. Yikes. You have to. Meaning, if you pull with two outer fingers like this, your pinky finger and your ring finger, you're pulling straight in line from the outer bone in the forearm, the ulna. If you pull from the two middle finger, or the two inside fingers, the index finger and the middle finger, you're pulling straight in line from the inner bone in the forearm, the radius. Okay? And then the rotation happens between these two bones, right between the middle of the four fingers. Okay? Now, yeah, there you go, right? So when we're using our hands, you either are going to use your hands in twos at the fingers, or we just use all four fingers at once. But if you use all four fingers at once, we've got to remember there's this rounding to the open palm, because there's different length fingers, and so as they come together, they round. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Well, that's about it, I guess. And like I've said, I've said this before in a way, but here's your documentation with the title of the video being this understanding. Just, you know, sometimes we're holding things in our hands, like you've already got something in your hand and you're trying to grab something else. Don't hold it with just one finger and try to use three other fingers to grab something else. Use your fingers in twos. That's what I'm saying. So you'll hold something with two fingers, and now you've just got two fingers correlating with one of the bones in the forearm just being used. So you've got the other two fingers that can just independently work with the other bone in the forearm to do things with. But if you only use one finger for something, now you're on an angle at the wrist. No matter where it is, you're just going to be really imbalanced with only using one finger. But if you use two fingers, you've got just a straight inline pull from at least one of the two bones in the forearm. And then using four fingers, why that's really hard a lot of the times in modern day is because they're round. So we need to hold things round. We live in a flat, man-made modern world placed onto God's natural earth. It's got all this rounding and texture to it. Here's an airplane again. So, yeah, what happens is, if you're trying to hold something that is flat, you're going to probably have to use two fingers to do it. Well, this is something I haven't shown before. Like I'm saying, this video is very specific. Even though I've said some of these things before, this one is really needed, because this is what I'm saying. If you try to hold something that's flat with four fingers, you just can't, because your fingers wrap around your thumb, because you've got 4 different length fingers. And so holding something flat, you know, if you tried to hold it with all 4 fingers, pinching something flat between your thumb and your 4 fingers, you're really only pinching it between your thumb and your middle fingers, because your outer 2 fingers have to curl in. And notice it changes my wrist, nice and neutral, when all my fingers touch my thumb, round, just because they're different lengths. But if I try to have something flat be grabbed between my 4 fingers and my thumb, it just doesn't happen, because you've got to have that rounding, that accommodation, to get those outer 2 fingers to wrap around to touch the thumb. So if you are holding something flat, you'll probably have to hold it with just, like I'm saying, 2 fingers. Your middle 2 fingers, pinching it between your thumb, or your index finger and your middle finger, pinching it between your thumb, or your ring finger and your pinky finger, pinching it between your thumb. Something flat, because otherwise, yeah, you just can't. You can't bend something flat if it's just like something stiff and flat. Here's a lawnmower too. Let me just pout. Can I just pout about it? Anyway, eternal truth, documentation of this will change your entire life, so check it out. In the Image Clothing Company, but you know, we'll further the discussion of this and the explanation as time progresses, but there you go. Use the fingers in 2s or 4s. You have to, because they're round. Meaning, even if you're holding something round, you're still going to only have 2 fingers correlating with one of the 2 bones in the forearm, and then 2 fingers correlating with the other one of the 2 bones in the forearm, or all 4 fingers just pulling straight in line from the forearm. Okay, so those middle 2 fingers, though, that'll pull down straight neutral from the middle 2 bones in the forearm. It just is what it is. They're just different length fingers. Stuff we just don't see if we don't see as human beings, like the different length 5 toes we have in this universal human design. Yeah, we roll evenly off the ends of our 5 different length toes just to share the weight. You hear the airplane? I just start cussing the airplane out. It's not their fault, but it's just crazy. Just the stuff I deal with, bro. I couldn't quite get you to understand it the way that it actually is. Filming hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of In the Image Clothing Company videos as of today's date, the 9th of July, 2026. I just deal with some crazy stuff sometimes getting these videos out. But it's just about the documentation, just another date marked documentation to build credibility, and just to show the truth of this. There's only one way the human body's bones connect, okay? The airplane pilot is the same, okay, in all the ways they are. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. Goodbye. Free modifications in clothing. We give a lot of them. We will always have good clothing under In the Image Clothing Company to not alter the body, doing at least the very baseline 3 things: staying centered, fitting correct, and being made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials. The lawnmower noise is getting louder. I could film these videos anywhere. I get it. So, there you go. In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, In the Image Clothing Company Music, In the Image Clothing Company Podcast with discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. We're on episode 209 as of today's date, the 9th of July, 2026. Thank you. Check us out. Yeah, just, you know, grab things with 2 fingers or grab things with 4 fingers. A lot of times what I'm saying is, you know, a big point in this video, people will usually try to do too many things at once in modern day. You know, it's kind of just the human condition. We all do it, you know, myself included. If we're just trying to be like extra efficient or something, you'll have things in your hands already, and then you'll try to grab other things, and you're just going to damage your forearms. And the hand is the shoulder as well. You know, there's no hand without a shoulder first. That's where it literally stems from, like an apple, right? The apple stems from the stem where it grows off the tree. If we call the spine the trunk of the body, like you call a tree trunk a trunk, the hand stems from the shoulder. So if you don't use your hand, the only way the bones physically are shaped and connect just directly in line, using your fingers in 2s or 4s with our different length 4 fingers in the universal human design, you'll damage your forearm, your elbow joint, your shoulder, well, your wrist too is right between your hands and your forearm. But yeah, just always keeping that neutral wrist, always using the hand properly, remembering it's round. Something we wouldn't have had to ever possibly think about that much in the past as human beings. But in modern day, with just so many things flat, the hand just doesn't work flat. Like if I try to grab something here, right next to this wasp, hey bro, with my fingers flat, it just doesn't work. I've got rounding to my fingers, and so holding something, see this, watch, holding something flat just doesn't work. Your fingers have to get out of the way, but now they're not even actually touching your thumb. Anyway, do you like our unconventional videos? Professional quality. Shout out to all the cameos. The airplane pilot, lawnmower driver, state of Utah, the United States of America. In the Image Clothing Company, St. George, Utah specific is where we're based. Thank you. We'll do some cool things in nature, in-person events, changing people's lives, bro. Because a lot of it's just free modifications in clothing. If your clothing's not sitting on your body proper, your shoulders aren't going to be working proper, and your shoulders travel out to your hand, so your hand's not going to be working proper anyway. I just remember not even having any understanding out of like personal experience or feel where the neutral wrist was in the body, you know, around the time of founding In The Image Clothing Company, me, Evan Strong. I mean, my body has changed so much. You just don't know what you don't know. And the thing is, we get so detached from the only way the human being actually can ever possibly physically, mechanically operate, because the bones just don't work the way they work if they can't. You know, you're in patterning and your bones are just tracking in angles and out of their only normal functioning, and you just got problems. You know, you've got bone spurs built up in your pinky finger on the outside of your hand, for example, from having your wrist dropped for years. Things like oversized tops. You're just never going to even know where that neutral wrist is unless you do. You're never going to get there in an oversized top. That's just one of the things. But all the way down from your feet, shoelaces traveling up, you know, you change the feet and the ankles, you're going to change the hands because gravity. Well, because the body is a kinetic chain, you know, it's all connected. Stemming at the feet, yeah, it's connected. Stemming at the feet, you've got the feet supporting the entire body, evenly opposing the center line of the human being, gripping those arches inward to support us vertically on Earth's vertical gravity pull. So if the feet don't work, and if you're not rolling evenly off the ends of your different length 5 toes within the universal human design to begin with, you're not going to be having the ends of your different length 4 fingers just naturally work to wrap evenly around your different length opposable thumb. So we just got to remember this, that you can't even address your hand to try to fix it. If your hand's not working proper, you know, if you're not able to use your fingers in 2s or 4s, and just keep the bones tracking in line, it might hurt your shoulder, you know, or it might be hard to straighten your elbow fully or keep your wrist neutral. You'll never address it. You'll never fix it fully. You know, problems, patterning, damage to the body by just trying to focus on your hand. You know, you gotta understand the body's a chain, so the hand starts from the shoulder, but before that, it came from the spine. Before the spine, it started down at the hips, and then before the hips, it started down through the legs, and the legs really started at the feet. So much of it is just about gravity, and our feet are what does that, supports the human being on Earth's vertical gravity pull. So things like In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique is just the only way the top of the feet are shaped. You're just weaving a rope across the top of them. Things like zero drop, the term in any brand of shoe, just flat on the bottom, same as the horizontal surface of the planet Earth that God made, that he made the human being to place onto. Human beings make man-made shoes with heels under the feet of the shoe sole, you know, pointing the toes, pointing the whole foot, plantar flexion of the foot, you know, this will damage the wrist. When I say wrist, I mean hand. also. The wrist is the hand. The hand is the shoulder. The jaw is the shoulder. Is the video's title under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here. So many things will go into this, but I just wanted to make sure I document, just have it documented. We really should be using the fingers in all the ways we possibly can, always, in either 2s or 4s. Then we either split the hand directly in half with the fingers in 2s, or we just use the whole hand's 4 fingers all together, you know. But if you use those middle 2 fingers, you can just rotate nice and easily still. It's just the center. You know, the middle finger and the ring finger used together, that's just the center of the arm, right between the 2 forearm bones. Thank you.